What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Weekly Cheddar. It's been a while since we went live, probably since post-draft. But if there was ever a day to get back on the horse and be live, now obviously derailed, certainly I've been over there, but to get back on the horse here, I mean, what a day to do it. So for those who are living under a rock, probably none. The Green Bay Packers have traded for Micah Parsons. JJ and I did about a 5-hour show on Tuesday night going through all of the emotion of like, okay, Kay Adams is tweeting. Oh my gosh, John Kuhn is tweeting. What's going on? Type of thing. So much so that we stayed on and did a mock draft actually that included a Parsons trade because people were interested in doing that. But yeah, we're here. Mike Kawano is joining me live driving home. We're gonna break a lot of this down. I brought a lot of stuff that I think we're gonna be interested in. I know Mafi sent us something in our little group chat about a certain team also being in the mix that I think was interesting, and we'll get to all that. But Mike, I know you asked me it kind of as we both hopped in here, but like, what? Just anything that what were you doing? How did like Monday and Tuesday go, and then what was the reaction kind of when we got to this point?
So it's been a funny week because my company's owners, two sisters, one of them's been leaving work early because her wife's been dealing with pneumonia, hoping she's getting better. The other one's on a family trip, so the adults are out of the house, so to speak, at work and stuff. And on top of that, my mom's on a trip, so no babysitter. So watching my daughter at work, my wife's company is on the right side of it. They're going through some legal stuff with a GC that hasn't paid them in 18 months. So a lot of exciting stuff. So honestly, the last couple of days, it's been as this Parsons stuff has heated up, and I'm sure you and JJ went over all of it. I've just been kind of straight down the middle of it, where I've kind of been not wanting to get hurt, but I'm just I just never thought it was going to happen. This felt like a Jerry Jones soaking up the every bit of entertainment he can kind of thing. And the Cowboys are playing the Eagles on opening night, and what better way for Jerry to try and stick it to the Eagles than to announce, basically as they're walking out for the coin flip, that we have extended Micah Parsons and he's playing tonight and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, imagine my shock, astonishment, as I am walking through Costco waiting for one of the forklift operators to move so that I could look for Swiffer dusters, which they did not have. And I know you were talking about how you were is that a rap sheet tweet or is a ROP sheet tweet? Or
yeah, right, exactly.
I wasn't even on Twitter because I'm just I have my daughter in the shopping cart, and like I said, hunting for home supplies and stuff. And it's actually my brother-in-law who texted me. Honestly, I didn't even read the text until a couple minutes later, because I was all right, let's get through Costco, get to the checkout line. And then I'm I wonder, I wonder if that was, my mom or something, because I knew she was flying home, and that's a whole other funny layer to this. But so I get in the checkout line, check my phone, and it's my brother-in-law, and the text is something like, "Good shit, Mike, congratulations." I'm like, huh? And then I was like, wait a minute, that can only be one. And I'm just shocked that it took more than from walking from the back of Costco, getting in line, to when I opened the text, and I still hadn't gotten the ESPN app update kind of thing. And it's like you said, the same thing. It's you get on Twitter and you kind of do the what? And,
yeah, kind of looking.
I likened it to that scene from Parks and Rec where Ron Swanson thinks he's going to get April out of having to go to Chris Traeger's leadership retreat, and they end up with both of them being signed up for it, and Ron is just left standing and going, what the hell just happened? And legitimately, to how frazzled I was, one of the Costco workers, because I was in the self-checkout line, she comes up to me oh, let me pre-ring up your items, and that way you can just scan your card and go through. And it was one of those And she's like, can I get your membership card? And I had to do the like snap back to reality and like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Like, where am I? But yeah, like I said, I wasn't afraid of being hurt like a lot of people were, but it
No.
really was the just like I consistently posted it on Twitter like 5%. And then like when Rap Sheet them were tweet, because a lot of people are like, oh, Rappaport has mentioned the Packers. And I was like, you're not listening to the whole quote. Like McAfee or whoever is like, oh, if Parsons were available, who are some teams that would be in on it? And, Rappaport very correctly so, and obviously he's been shown to be prophetic, is saying like the Packers should be because they need to make up ground in the NFC and all that kind of stuff talent-wise. But yeah, like at no point until even this morning when the tweet came out that like, oh, the Joneses are kind of seeing the light, or like they're seeing the writing on the wall and they may be more agreeable to it. I was like, and this isn't an anti-Groot thing. Like, I just always do wonder how a GM rectifies like trading draft assets and having to turn around and pay a record-setting, record-breaking contract to a player. And so I just legitimately didn't know the line in the sand. And honestly, I know we'll get into it more, but I think Groot did really well in this deal. And I think that's the second part of it that, Mafi tweeted it or sent it in our group where, where I think everyone in Packers land is going, well, what is the trade? Because I think Rappaport and Pelissero's initial tweets were just like, he's a Packer now kind of thing, but there was no details. And then when Shefty is like, oh, it's 2 firsts and a frontline player, you're kind of like, okay, that
who's the
Kenny wasn't at the top of my head kind of thing.
No.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I was worried Cooper was going there. For a
right,
second, for
because
a split second.
and my head worked like, because then I was like, okay, is it like trading Quay or Edge for him kind of thing? Because it's like you get another guy who's got like another year, and it would probably be an Edge because it's like you get the younger guy kind of thing. But like, I know we'll go into it with Kenny, but like, I hate that it ended this way. But also like, Goot, take your victory lap. Like, that's just the price of admission, honestly.
Yeah. No, 100%. I was in, I told you this, this, the people don't, but I was like kind of like on a work call that finished up around 5 minutes before this is coming out. Get a text in like this massive group chat. And someone posts and I'm like, I don't see the check mark by a rap sheet. So as you said, is it a rap sheet, a rip sheet? Is it a rap sheet with 3 underscores? Like, what is this type of thing going on here? Like, haha, that's so funny. And he puts underneath, called it. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This guy has been talking about this happening, and he thinks it was going to. And so I click on the tweet, and I'm like, and I'm sitting there, and I see the check mark, and I'm still kind of like, as you did, I'm like, I think I just snapped into some like weird parallel universe for a second, and like, okay, what's happening? Pinch, wake up type of thing. Did you fall asleep at your desk? What are you doing? And then the Pelissero tweet comes in, and then the Schefter tweet comes in, and there are people posting pictures, and I'm like, I can't believe this. They actually did this. They have made the trade for Micah Parsons, and let Ricky cook, let the dog cook. Of course, as he was doing the victory lap and apparently retiring. But yeah, I've honestly just kind of walked through the last like 4 hours, just kind of like, probably until I see him walk out there in uniform, I'm kind of still gonna be like, okay, like what
they're gonna,
am I in like a Madden simulation? Yeah, that too, right? Like, how's the back? Is that okay, right? Type of thing. Maybe it's all better now. Maybe he's fine. Maybe maybe the back is all good, but. Yeah, honestly stunned. Can't believe that this has actually happened. I think, we kind of touched on it all off season, right? Of like, hey, are they going to go chase somebody? Is it going to be like Hendrickson? Parsons was obviously brought up. Watt was brought up quite a bit. And it's like, yeah, but those two guys are older. Parsons is a younger player. And someone again pointed out, we went over it, on Derailed, is like the Packers are like 25 years, 270 some days was their initial 53, right, in like average age, and they added a 26-year-old pass rusher. So it's like, oh, look at this take a massive a few days. It's gonna shift a little bit when we get to the opening day roster. Like, it's kind of crazy. They're a young team, but they add a player who's essentially entering, what should be 4 at least prime years of playing, high level ball at edge rusher at the very least, right? And I think we'll probably hit on this because I've got some screenshots and stuff of how things could be aligned. But you never know. Hafley might get a little creative, which I think will be really exciting. But really quick, obviously on the numbers here and the deal and what went down. Obviously, it's a 2026 first, a 2027 first, and then Kenny Clark's going to Dallas. Micah Parsons coming to Green Bay, of course. And then you have the contract, which, yeah, it's a biggie here. I'll put it up on the screen here as we get to the presentation. Yeah, so this is the Pels. This is where it kind of like sunk in, where it didn't even sink in with the rap sheet tweet, but it was like Parsons. Yeah, this is a 4-year, $188 million deal. And I'm going through my head. I'm like, okay, so 136 guaranteed. That's fun. What's the AAV on this? Oh my gosh, it's $47 million AAV. Which, I was kind of like, okay, we thought 45 was going to be the case. Maybe, Green Bay's, I don't know. I don't know what they had to do in terms of the numbers. If anybody else was putting that on the table.
I'm thinking is, yeah, what I'm thinking it is like, so the 47 is like, oh my God. But I'm pretty sure it's 4 years on top of the salary cap year. So really it's 188 plus 24, right? So that's like 212. Yeah. So 5 over 212. So I think what they did is like, it's the shock headline of like, you leapt over the AAV, but also when we combine it with that salary cap year, you are still the top, it's not like by the extension only, you are the top paid, but yes, with the overall contract, you are like 4th kind of thing. They're like, no, you're gonna be top paid by extension and still be when you include that 2025 season. It took me a second to think like, why would like Ball and Groot don't normally, there's a lot of like stepping outside of standard operating procedures for the Packers here and stuff, but they kind of did still stick to some of their usual guys. One of them being like, there were none of the usual guys, and that's why so many of us were so like hesitant to like really accept that this is a possibility, because it is the whole like, it's the dude who knows the dude that's it's the doctor for the plastic surgeon that's the neighbor of the blah 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 and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it's a massive amount of money that they're giving him, and a player who deservedly, when healthy, is a defensive player of the year. Like, he's a finalist auto lock almost, basically.
Yeah. It really is. He is that player. It's essentially adding a top 10 player in the league to your roster, right? Which in a roster that I think most people would agree does not have one. Maybe doesn't have a top 20 player, right? You can certainly make that argument as well. We were talking a little bit on Tuesday on Derailed about who the blue chippers are on this roster, right? It's kind of like, Jacobs, McKinney, probably the first two that come to mind, which are interesting, that the free agent. Zach Tom is probably in the blue chipper category as well. I think, Elton's an interesting argument at center. Kraft is somebody who I think, if you don't believe it now, you will in about 2 months at most. And obviously McKinney on defense. So it's like they don't really have like another guy other than McKinney on defense where you go, like, there's juice up front. Like, I think the front is fine. It was, I think Cooper, you're seeing a little bit more from Hopper, which is interesting in the preseason, which maybe kind of led to what they did in terms of the 53. Now, of course, they added a guy, but might be a special teams thing. But they needed a punch, right? It was kind of like when we talked at the end of last year, the main discussion was kind of like, okay, we all watched that play in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts, 7.5, 8 seconds back there. Coverage is doing everything possible that it could to stay in front of guys, and it's like, at 8 seconds, you're just not going to be able to do it, right? Jalen Hurts can sit back there for a week. He's going to find somebody eventually because it's just not possible to cover that long. And so you look at that play, and I think right there it was kind of like, all right, this offseason, that's where all these rumors started with, like, should they, or not even rumors really, just kind of like, should they go after this player X, player Y at pass rusher, or, are they going to be able to land a guy like Harmon or Nolan, right, in the draft where it's like, okay, this is going to help this front take a step up. And certainly with Micah Parsons, the front is I just wanted to let the word out there that we back up, okay, on this front, okay? And the crazy thing is, as we kind of discussed, I think a little bit was, when it's frontline player, weird word to use, that was kind of strange. I guess maybe he meant in the trenches, essentially, was maybe what they were trying to say with frontline player, which was just a weird way to say that anyway. But my mind immediately goes to, okay, a player's going, is it Walker? Is it Morgan? Is it Van Ness, right? Maybe it's Gary, but I'm sure they want somebody a little younger, so they would, Van Ness would probably be the guy. Very strange for Dallas to opt for a 29-year-old, about to be 30-year-old defensive tackle. That's weird. Just from their standpoint of, like, what are you trying to do here? Like, Van Ness would have made a lot of sense. I would have been intrigued about a room that had Van Ness, Marshawn Nealand, who we talked about a lot in 24, and Donovan Ezaraku, who was talked about a lot because of the BC connection to Hafley, right, among the Packers guys this year at edge. It's kind of a similar build, a little bit longer arms, but a similar build to what Parsons is in some aspects. So, that would have been more interesting. Now it's kind of like, okay, that front's weird, and are you going to pay Pickens and Dak and CD have these massive deals, and, like, how is this going to stack up? And Ferguson's been paid, I believe. So Dallas is in a weird spot, but Green Bay is certainly in a position to do this. I know that Love has a big deal. Tom's deal was, I don't care what anyone says, that was friendly as heck. I don't know who his agent is. I'm so surprised. His agent should have pushed the button a lot harder for him. I'm not sure why that wasn't the case, but
even if you look at him only as a right tackle, it's like,
he's weird. Yeah, I don't get that. So, like, you have some guys who are paid heavy money. The offensive line's being paid a lot right now. Aaron Banks is getting paid a lot. That's, I'm sure we're going to have plenty of discussions about that during the season, about how that's going to go. Elton Jenkins is carrying a big number right now. Rasheed Walker, is he going to get paid? I think we would say no, but there is a lot right now, in terms of the money, but I do think some of it's going to be shed, and they're going to have to make some decisions next offseason with a lot of players. But that's next offseason, right? And I think this is kind of, to me, what this kind of looks like, right? You have Parsons now through 2029. Which is great. Love that. I think 2025 is now, this year is a push it in type of year, right? Where the chips are going in. 26 might be a step back because of how many players you lose, money to shed, all that stuff. But you're probably still at least playoff competitive, and that's totally fine with the players you have. And then 27 is my guess of when the next push it type of thing is going to look, how it's going to look, how the roster is going to be with 2 drafts under their belt. Yes, without a first rounder, but we'll get into that with a certain tweet that's been popping off, which is pretty sick. But like, they're going to be in a good position for the next 5 years. This is a position where you only gave up 2 selections, which surprises me. Even with a player going back, I thought it was going to be 3, 4. I don't know. Like, were they going to ask for Khalil Mack stuff where it's like, oh, we're swapping picks and we're moving up to 6 from year 7 and we're doing the 3 from 5 type of thing. And it's all very, it was like that Adam Thielen trade that just went down where they're doing a bunch of that, which was weird, and conditionals and all that. But no, it's 2 firsts and Kenny Clark, which to me is kind of, if that was on the table and I'm staring at it, I'm like, yeah. Sorry, I don't even need to read all this. He's getting how much? I don't care. Where do I sign? Type of thing. So, yeah, all in on that.
It's not my money.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's not mine. I don't control any of it. I'm gonna get to some of the chatters here since we got some folks. Yeah, JJ said about 5 hours undersells the effort to make it exactly 5 hours. Yeah, that was a long evening on Tuesday. But glad we did it because we got a lot of talk about what this would look like before it went down, which was great. A tool for the same. We got Micah Robinson back on the practice squad. That's great news. After that Nick Neiman move earlier this week. Joseph asked, does this deal happen if Rodgers and Tate didn't get traded before the ends of their deals, or is that way in the rear view? That's an interesting question, for sure. I think so. Didn't, maybe not didn't. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to think of how long their deals would have lasted had they not.
I think
Yeah,
Rodgers would still be on the books this year. And I'm
so
assuming
maybe not.
Devontae, because 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, I
Yeah,
think they would have
Vontae
been
would
in like
be.
the last
Yeah.
or second to the last years of their deals, basically. Like,
Yeah, I
that's
think it
kind of
would have
where it works
been.
out.
Yeah, I think Rodgers this year, Devontae next does sound right. I think so. If that was the case, so yeah, maybe not. Depending on, but again, their numbers probably don't look insane compared to where we're at now, right? Which is another thing that may have pushed this on. But maybe if Rodgers and Devontae are here, maybe you're like okay with the like, hey, let's try this 1-year Trey Hendrickson rental type of thing and see how that goes. That might be more of what they went with instead. Which, does that sound as fun to you? Probably not. I don't think. Where it's kind of like, all right, guys, we're hobbling along, we're trying to get to this finish line type of thing. So yeah, maybe not. It could look different. They might have still gone after somebody like a Hendrickson for that shorter rental, because they wouldn't have been as young of a team. Period. Like, they wouldn't be as young of a team as they are now. They've been an extremely young team for the last 2 seasons, and they've made the playoffs both times. One of the 2 times they were, I would say, very, very close. It doesn't seem like it because it was a divisional round loss, but the 2 teams standing in your way, you'd already beaten. So, yeah, I think they're at a position where Murphy, I think someone pointed this out, and I wish I could find the tweet, but someone pointed out, like, this is new management type of thing, and we'll see Mike here shortly, but it's management still is new, right? Ed Policy wants to see, results with, Goody and LaFleur, right? Because, I mean, they've made the divisional round, 2 years ago now. And obviously they went to the NFC Championship game, played a home game in 2020, right? But they've kind of been on that cusp, but I feel like this young team is trending upwards. So I think they want to see it. Does that mean it sprung on a panicky type of deal? No, but I do think, like, you never know what job security influence does to you, right, in this league. So, but yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I like that a lot. I do think that's probably how it goes, is they would have made more of a guy in the later years move that wouldn't have probably costed as much. This guy's always in his car, Hanamine's family. Yeah, I mean, he's a few hours behind, right? So he's doing a lot of stuff that we in this, we in the continental U.S. aren't quite doing at the moment, right? So over this, I was at work, not a single person cared, but I was losing my mind. Yeah, this is very much a where were you moment. I do think this is our generation's version of Reggie White signing, right? I wasn't there for that. Plenty of people that I know were there for that, but this is kind of our version, which could be really cool. If it delivers a title, it's done what you've done what you wanted to do, right? And I think that's what's going to be measured by, and probably should be. I see you're drinking 1%. With all the percent talk, I was seeing the Napoleon Dynamite. Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, we were talking a lot about hypotheticals. What's the percentage likelihood that this deal is on the table? What's the percentage likelihood it's accepted? Yeah, there was a lot of that on Tuesday night. Joseph, yes, we're going to talk about this for sure. The third down packages with Parsons, Gary Van Ness, and Wyatt, Coop, and Quay. I'm gonna star this because we're gonna circle back to it because I want to get to some stuff about how Parsons might fit before, spoiler alert, video drops in the morning, right? But the video dropping in the morning, for those listening, it won't be here. It's gonna be on the main guy where the following is a little bit, but there's gonna be something here tomorrow, which I hope you guys check out as well. So yeah, Joseph, we'll get back to that one. To over this, hoping it was Musgrave. Oh well. Crazy that Dallas will be picking up both 1 and 32 next year. I saw this tweet from JJ. I thought it was very good. I really liked it. Yeah, that was a good one. Is ESPN actually saying he's wearing 0? Is that real? That's real? No, it's not. 0? They're gonna let him do that? That would be kind of wild if so. Is that confirmed? Anyway, We'll come back to this one. We'll come back to this one too, if that's true. Number 2 behind New Orleans. Yeah, Adam, I'm starring this because we're gonna get back to that too. No question about it. It's going to be really interesting to see how the pack handles rundowns. Yes, we're going to get into that. Hoping Brinson Wood and Stackhouse can pull something together 100%. Yes, 204 says we beat the Bears this offseason. That was really funny. Someone tweeted the Cooper DeJean interception of Mahomes in the Super Bowl and basically saying the offseason trophy, saying Green Bay picked it off from Chicago, which I thought was truly incredible stuff. The memes and the tweets and all that, it's a field day out there, and we're just along for a good time. Run stunts are going to be, gosh, and run stunts, and obviously, your regular ones rushing the pass are going to be very interesting. Adam Huddle says Kenny in a solo trade feels like it would have taken a pick attached to him to move that contract. Yes, I think so. I think we kind of touched on that on Tuesday, JJ and I did, where it was like, if you're trading Kenny, you're probably sending something, maybe a day 3 pick with him. To take on more of that contract. Maybe it goes higher and higher the more they take it on. So, yeah, I think that's very possible as well. Let's do this. Hopefully Mike comes back in for this because I think it's a fun little deal. But I want to do this. We're going to go here, okay? Because Adam's talking about F them picks, right? Which I think is, what we should be talking about. I tweeted this because this was way too fun. I saw some Bears account going, blah, blah, blah. They traded 2 ones. Can they be good? It's going to have to deliver. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously. Thanks so much for telling us it's going to have to deliver. Like, no kidding, this trade has to deliver. But it was like, 2 firsts. Like, what can we do? And it's like, I mean, come on. Really? It's Green Bay's firsts, which I'll pull up here in a moment, actually, because somebody gave them to me, which I think is super, super helpful of them. Let's go here really fast. Recent year first round picks for the Green Bay Packers, just because we traded 2 firsts, right? And I get it. The 2027 first, it hurts to trade that one because that's the Jeremiah Smith draft. That's Colin Simmons, right? That's Cam Coleman. That's Ryan Williams, right? That's tough. We don't like that. But when you look back to 2018, Goody drafts Ja in the first after a trade down and a trade up, right? Down 13, up 9 spots, and lands Ja. Rashawn Gary and Darnell Savage are 2 first-round picks in 2019. Jordan Love in 2020 via a mini trade-up. Eric Stokes in 2021, Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt in 2022, Lucas Van Ness in 23, Jordan Morgan in 24, and then Matthew Golden in 25. So, what does this look like, right? I think the big thing with this is first round is still not a guarantee. Yes, you've got higher chances of guaranteeing stuff because, I think the consensus board has done a nice job catching up, and I think front offices have caught up using that, going through scenarios. There's a lot more analytics, all of this stuff to build a picture of the prospect, right? But the more information we have, the more it's still a crapshoot, right? Everybody's on the same level. So now what is it? Now it's just will he or won't he type of thing. Still though, I think this shows you the kind of mixed bag that it can be, right? Ja, I think is a hit. I know the injuries made that tougher, but I do think it is one. Rashawn Gary's probably a hit. Darnell Savage is not. Jordan Love certainly looks like a hit. Eric Stokes is not. Quay, I don't think so, but we'll see what happens this season. In year 4, Devontae Wyatt is kind of one of those guys where most people would probably say he's a hit when he's on the field, but another one that I think we'd like to see one more, we'd like to see a full year of really good play from him. 2023 Van Ness, I think everybody's kind of hoping that this is the year, right? The first time he's got an offseason where he's not changing coordinators, right? And kind of a scheme and what he's being asked to do, right? Obviously doing that from Iowa to a Joe Barry defense, then a Barry defense to Hafley. We're staying with Hafley this offseason. That's nice for him. Jordan Morgan, obviously still a question mark where he's going to end up playing. Could open the season at left guard. Could be the long-term left tackle. We'll see. He's obviously still an unknown, and then Matthew Golden, of course, is an unknown. Though I think a lot of people are putting the expectations on Golden, which I think is fair considering he's still an ascending player, but I think there's enough floor there as a starter where you look to him for more expectations than you do a Morgan, than you do a Van Ness, than you do a Quay Walker, than you do a Stokes, right? So, yeah, this is a mixed bag for sure. And could it look a lot better with these two up here in Morgan and Van Ness by the end of the season? Absolutely. But there's still no guarantee in the first round. And so the strategy of foregoing those picks, I think, is totally fine, right? And then it gets to this, right? We talk about previous years, what we're doing in the draft, right? When you think about 2022, he hasn't been healthy, but Christian Watson, they go get him, right, in 2022. Romeo Dobbs, Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, Kingsley Enagbare, right? In 2022 there was a lot, right? There was a lot. They crushed day 3. I think what you would say is a massive success. 2023, right, is your Jaden Reed in the second round, right? There was hope for Musgrave in the second. Tucker Kraft is a third-round pick that year, right? So there is plenty of that where it's okay. And Sean Ryan, who's obviously started games, he was a third-rounder in 22. Edrin Cooper, Javon Bullard, and then Hopper and Lloyd, right, as guys that way. Carrington Valentine was a seventh-round pick. And then you get to this past year, right, when you look after Golden, right, will Savion do something? Baron Sorrell, Colin Oliver, right? There's a lot going on where the draft isn't just one day. Now, there's an argument about it being 4 or 5 rounds, but think also about this, too, not just from Green Bay's perspective, right? Think about the second round, right, at receiver. Green Bay's done it for a long time, but there's so many really good second-round picks out there. I mean, most recently, of course, Ladd McConkey was a second-round pick for the Chargers, right? This happens. Guys, second-round picks do a lot for you. And so I think that, Laporta was a second-round pick. Brian Branch was a second-round pick, right? Just keep going around the league type of thing where you see this a lot. So I do think the like only parting with 2 picks, I know they're first-rounders, but like it doesn't feel to this point of like, oh, it's not attainable to stay, contending to get all these guys in here. It's like, well, also, I had to do it to him, right? Because hold on a minute, I'm just receiving word that none of these guys were first rounders. I had to do it. That was way too fun to do that. But yeah, it feels like we're in that situation where it's okay. Like, they can still add plenty to this roster. They've done a tremendous job with offensive line after the first round, right? We'll see on Belton, of course. He's still, in that mix. But you can do so much. Like I'm trying to rip things off the top of my head here when I'm going through this. But like Justin Madubuike got a massive contract from the Ravens. He was a third-round pick, right? So, and more will come to me, of course, as we go through this. Drop some in the comments, obviously, after the first round. Players who are quite good right now. Puka Nacua, Rams. Kyron Williams, Rams. Both were day 3 picks, right? Braden Fisk, who broke out as a rookie. Cooper DeJean, 2 guys in the second round right there. So there will be plenty of that, right? And I think we get caught up in the flash of the first round, and if there's a lot of it up top, you think, oh, it's not a deep draft, and like sometimes it isn't at certain positions, but ultimately I do think you're still going to be able to add plenty to this roster even without those 2 firsts, because again, seconds, Scooty can trade back from those seconds, right? He can accrue some fifths in there. He loves doing that, so he loves moving around the board, and I do think you will get, depending on who leaves, how they get signed next offseason, right? There will be a lot of comp picks the year after, which I think, can also provide this team with plenty. So I do think the F them pick strategy is totally fine here, especially because it wasn't that many. So there you go on that front. So what else do we want to hit on? Of course, is kind of everybody talking about these third down packages, right? The stunts, how they handle rundowns now, right? All of this stuff. So I wanted to bring this up because I grabbed some screenshots of like what, things can look like and how they can align. And I tried so hard with 25 minutes of prep to find a true jam front. You're not going to get like the best kind. But I do want to give me a second here. Where we're going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to remove this for a second. And we're going to pull up some of these like fronts and stuff like that. Don't want to do it here. Just so we have something to look at really quickly. Okay. So really quick, I grabbed some rundowns and just, thoughts of like how Green Bay things could look when you're, attacking 12 personnel and all this stuff, because this is something with Micah Parsons is like, where's he aligning? How is the fit going to look in this defense? Because he's, around 245, right? He's not the big defensive end that we're used to with Gary and Van Ness, especially, hand in the dirt, early downs, right? Setting an edge versus trying to work around and use the athleticism and explosiveness and everything to work around, dip around, like do all that around blocks at the point of attack, right? So, and again, Enigbare and Brenton Cox and some of these guys are a little smaller, but more often than not, what you're going to see, right, especially in a 4-3, these three linebackers on the field, right? Detroit's in 12 here with Laporta and Brock Wright, and so yes, is this a weird spot for Parsons to align? Perhaps, right? As kind of the backer who's, tight to the strong side of this formation, but is obviously can get into the run fit very quickly if he needs to, type of thing. Is it possible he aligns here? Maybe. It's not impossible that obviously he could be aligned as one of the down defensive linemen too. That's not out of the question, but again, when you have Van Ness and Gary, who are bigger bodies, who can set the edge, who aren't going to get blown off the ball as often, it makes it more interesting to see what you're going to do in stuff like this. Now, here's one where you get a little bit of that as well, where it's like, okay, this is a rundown, fullbacks on the field. My guess is they could get into a front here where you still have the two backers, right? You obviously potentially a one high shelf. This guy's going to drop down, but you could get into a point where the front's tighter a little bit, but you have an extra guy drop onto the offensive line or onto the line of scrimmage, excuse me. And so I do think that is a possibility that we could see. Try and see if there's anything where we can zoom in slightly, but this is one where it's a little bit better, where you can see the linebacker more on the line of scrimmage in this case with a condensed look. We got two guys standing up. Could Parsons be one of the guys standing up? Certainly in this scenario. Yes, absolutely. But it's very possible you still see some of this where Parsons is one of these end guys on the edge, playing where he has played and has been comfortable doing so. Now here, this might be more of what you'll see, right? Where this is 22, right? Fullback, running back, two tight ends. Parsons being this guy in the end man, or here where I believe it looks like Enigbare is. One of these two spots where it is a true 5-down line, like he probably could be one of the outside guys. I don't think he's going to be one of the three with the hand in the dirt in a scenario like this, right? But he's probably going to be more with the, standing up type of thing. Now, he doesn't mean he can't put his hand in the dirt, right? That is certainly something we've seen, right? He can align from there. He can explode out of that stance. Like, that's not something where I'm, concerned, but it's more about the run defense. Is he going to be an asset in that regard? And I think that's where you get into these looks in early downs where he just isn't a part of the guys with the hand in the dirt that are taking on, the tackles that are more of on the edge, right? Either working against the tight end, working around the tackle where somebody's replacing him, type of thing, where it's not like he is truly anchoring, sitting down and setting that strong edge where he has the opportunity to kind of attack more. And we've seen that from this Green Bay defense, right? Where guys are allowed to attack a single gap. And Hafley wants that. He wants that aggressive style, right? Edgerrin Cooper's done plenty of that where they're asking him up on the line of scrimmage to either slant or get around and attack a gap so that they have favorable numbers, in every spot. And so that is still something that Parsons can do. They might get even more creative than that, but obviously in passing downs, when you have four guys out there, that's going to get really interesting because you will have, Hafley's done a lot of things where Rashawn Gary's on the up on the center, right? Or Edgerrin Cooper's on the center, but with Parsons, you can obviously have him on the edge, right? On either side, you could have him on the center to work around. Parsons is still going to be a movable piece as well as just, hey, go tee off, right, in a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7 situation. And that's, I think, what makes this thing super, super exciting and that we want to see as soon as possible. And the good news is this isn't a trade that happened in May or March, right? This is a trade that happens a week out from the season, 10 days away from Green Bay football. That's what's exciting, is we're going to get into this very quickly. Can't wait, obviously, for those first videos in camp. But I do think that's interesting, and I can't wait to see what the deployment looks like, because I don't think it's going to be extremely traditional, right, in the 4-3. I don't think we're going to get the, like, oh, yeah, he's just playing end, Van Ness is always a backup type of thing. I don't think we're going to fully get that. Now, will they want him on the field at all times? Sure, but I do think you can get into this 4-3 with that Sam backer, but it's a jam front where he's on the line of scrimmage, right, playing edge. It's just in a look that almost looks like a 3-4 for a second there if you don't blink twice, right? But because the structure of Hafley's defense looks a certain way, that's what it's going to be. So I do think, with everything they can do stunt wise, because they bring Cooper around on a lot of loopers, right, where they're gonna give him so many great opportunities, which in turn is still, like, teams are gonna be focusing on that, right? So it's gonna give some chances schematically for Wyatt to win some one-on-ones, Gary to win some one-on-ones, right, with some speed and some power. So it changes so much of the calculus of, like, how defenses are going to approach this. Yet, as we sit here and talk about it, yes, the rundowns are extremely important, right, as Joseph is pointing out. Without Kenny Clark, who has played nose at a decent clip when he's been in there doing so, right? I know it's not the same. He's declining a little bit. That's true. And it was tough to watch him last season, and hopefully for his sake, the injury was the reason. But now with Nazir Stackhouse coming in as a UDFA, now with a Warren Brinson, right, who you have to play with good pad level, you're going to have to play with plenty of strength in there. And I did see, when watching Cooper over the last several days and putting together his stuff, is Colby Wooden did some nice things. There were a couple times he took on double teams, which I think is interesting, and he's put on more weight, and they want him on the roster. So who knows who's going to line up at nose more often than not. I don't think Wyatt's going to get any looks there. I feel like Brooks probably isn't going to get any looks there either, but we'll see. I think it's Wooden and the Georgia Bulldogs potentially going to get a lot of that work, and could someone like Van Ness reduce inside in some of these jam fronts potentially, right? As somebody who's big, physical, can hold the ground, play with good pad level. Like I don't see why not. Obviously, you want to be a little bit heavier, right, defending the run, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. I don't know where else we want to go. Obviously, drop the questions, but it's hard not to be excited, right? This has been quite a year for Green Bay, right? Drafting the receiver in the first round for the first time in a long time, and then making a move of this magnitude is extremely exciting. The games can't get here fast enough to watch Golden and Parsons. Green Bay's raiding Texas for all they've got, essentially. But it is exciting, and I know people are asking, like, I think Adam was one of those guys asking of, like, hey, what's the mock draft world going to look like in February and March? It's like, yeah, it's going to be different, but you're going to think in your mind, hey, like, we have Micah Parsons, so here's a fun tweet. Let's work on something here. Let's workshop this real fast. Just because this is fun, right? There's plenty of great tweets out there. We gotta hit on some of them for sure. But Steve says Packers got Reggie White. Brett Favre won the Super Bowl at 27. Packers got Charles Woodson. Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl at 27. Packers get Micah Parsons. Jordan Love is 27. Gotta love it. Great things come in threes. Great poetry. History repeats itself. All of that good stuff. Like, that is very possible, man. This is as we've kind of discussed, this is a push to, stay in the upper echelon of the conference, right? And now I think you have defensively, right? You think hopefully with Ezra and Cooper, you have 3 blue chippers on defense and you have a great supporting cast, right? The safety room, I think, looks really good. We'll see what Bullard does. He's going to play nickel. He's going to play safety. It sounds like he's going to play safety, but love what we got in the safety room, especially with Oladapo lingering in there. Evan Williams was really rock solid last year. But again, Cooper and Parsons and all of this is these running QBs and all of this stuff. You've got true tremendous athletes out there. And then obviously Van Ness and Gary are no slouches themselves to be able to contain a lot of this and run this down. But ultimately what Parsons is doing is letting the Packers get home with 4. And that is what you want to happen. When you don't have to bring a blitz, when you can allocate more resources to coverage, right? All of that, I think, is going to be what's exciting, where it's like, okay, we have the guy who can go get the QB. It's 3rd and 8, third quarter, fourth quarter. Like, let's go get it. And hopefully Wyatt joins the party and Gary continues to, work back from that injury. I know it's been, you would say, a long time, but feels like this is the year where he's able to be full go, tee off at a high level. And you just get help everywhere else, right? Can Quay, continue to work into something? Can Van Ness? Can the guys working into year 2, right? Is the corner room going to be enough? But you have a Nate Hobbs in the secondary who should be ready to go. Like, it's a defense that I thought did very well last year once they kind of got decent footing. And, I think the offense, the depth, on the offensive line may be challenging a little bit with the Banks injury, but I think like Golden should be pushing every one of these guys, and Kraft should be pushing them especially, and Jacobs should be pushing them. It just feels like this team is in a good spot because now they have the ringer. They have the ringer. They have the guy on defense up front in the trenches where you have to win football games to go get it done. And so that is really exciting. I don't think I have a whole lot. If we want to get into some more, I know Mike said he was going to pop back in. I don't want to. I want to wait for him to come back because I know he's probably got more thoughts on a lot of this. But yeah, this is where we sit. It's kind of, quite a place to be for this team right now. So we're going to be in good shape. My favorite thing on Twitter right now is the people who didn't get the joke and the joke flew over their head and they're like, "What are you talking about? We're fine." It's like, yeah, that's the point. We are exactly fine. That's 100% what we're doing right now. So yeah, but I am very excited. It is a little surreal that this is actually happening. So yeah, I am over the moon right now, and I think most of Packer Nation is. There's a few that are upset because of it's a big contract for a player, and you don't want that, and you're giving up all these future assets, and which is understandable, right? Like that's it's not nothing, but the Jerry Jones was talking about like these players, these first round picks we got could be Pro Bowlers, and it's like, yeah, but you have an All Pro Defensive Player of the Year candidate who is one of 2 people who have 12 sacks in each of his first 4 seasons on your team. And it's like, you want to go try to find that again? That seems kind of crazy to try. But, is what it is. That's what they're trying it. That's for sure. And so we'll see how that pans out. They were comping it to, I think the Herschel Walker trade came up where it's like, yeah, we got all these picks. And it's like, yeah, that was a running back, buddy. Like, why would you not want all those picks for a running back when you're not good? Like, this is a pass rusher that should be on your team for a long time. Like a Myles Garrett, like a TJ Watt, where you're always in contention because you have him on the roster. So there is a lot of that with Jerry Jones, and I'm sure he made a lot of comments because I saw that there was a press conference today and all that. So, he made a lot of comments. Let's see if we can grab some of the comments here, just so we can walk through some of them. But obviously, as always, folks viewing, drop your thoughts down there. Hit that like button also, by the way. and sub if you have not. Some of the Cowboys fans, you know. Okay, I've got some tweet. All right, let's go to this tab just for fun. Josh Norris obviously does a lot of great stuff in Underdog. Says, after being asked one question, Jerry Jones talked for 11 minutes and 5 seconds straight. No one loves a press conference more than this man. Hey, any publicity is good publicity. There's a lot of there's quite some stuff in here. But Ray is saying they interrupted Celebrity Family Feud for this type of thing. So, you know, there's a lot going on here. And again, Dallas, if Jerry Jones ever compares this to Herschel Walker, might crash out. You know, there's a lot of comps throwing out there too. Oh, this is good. Nice. Spaghetti for a Mac. That's great. Jerry Jones explaining run defense right now, the pressure. Am I on another planet? Yeah. So that's there's a lot going on. The presser quotes. I need some quotes though. That's what I need. Hold on. We're gonna go back to here until I find some good quotes that we could get to. Because otherwise we're just gonna get like, you know. I think Rap Sheet should have some. I just gotta find his stuff in here. Here we go. Okay. All right, here we go. I found some stuff. Okay. So let's see. Did the Cowboys ever feel like Micah Parsons didn't want to be in the Cowboys? I didn't give that a thought. I never felt it. Jerry Jones is asked about whether he thinks the comments about agent will make other negotiations more challenging. You can't do this stuff in business and be fragile. I'm not. I would think he's very professional to keep it up in emotions. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, here we go. We have decided it was in the best interest of our team, and we can win in our minds more than we had gone the other route and signed him. That's weird coming from somebody who has not been to the NFC Championship game in quite some time. Let's see. I really like Micah. I appreciate 4 years we had of him here. No question could have signed him again. Could have signed him in April. This is by design to make Micah an offer, and it was acceptable. Did make him an offer. Wasn't acceptable. I don't know the fact that it wasn't done I wanted through an agent. This is the one I think, right? No, it's not. But it's somewhere in here. It takes many players to win in the NFL. You do have to allocate your resources, draft picks, or finances. There's no question in my mind that Micah could bring us a lot of resources in a trade. As it turns out, all the publicity about not having a contract, you did your part in making sure it was known that he was potentially available, and I appreciate that. Talking about the media, which I think is interesting. Yeah, this is certainly something. Is there any more from the fellas here? This gives us a chance to be a better team than we've had the last several years. Yeah. Here we go. The facts are we need to stop the run. We haven't been able to stop the run for several years. That is true. That is accurate. We have not. You have not been able to. There it is. This is the one. Those draft picks could get us top Pro Bowl players. Could. Instead, Green Bay now has one. So yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot of great nuggets. I can't wait to watch it. But you know, that's what's it. I mean, this is kind of like a party. So just chilling. We're sitting in, you know, a time that we will certainly always remember. Real quick for those still watching, appreciate you who are. Video on Parsons is going to be at the link I just shared here. So you can go find that. Search Jake NFL Draft on Twitter, no spaces, and you should find it. That's where the Micah video is going to go tomorrow morning. Edgerrin Cooper is going to be live here tomorrow. And I think there's going to be one more on the main at this link tomorrow. A certain second-year receiver who we could have done the receivers in the film room who have already broken out and done amazing stuff. I figured let's look at some second-year guys who might break out. We already did Pearsall if you want to check that out. as well. But there's more. There's going to be more leading up to go time next week. So stay tuned for all that. There's plenty of that stuff. So yeah, if you want to stick around, that would be much appreciated. But I don't think I have a whole lot left. If you got comments, you want to do some fun, wacky stuff like put a mock draft together based on how this would look next year. Kind of already did that because Adam asked me to, which we love that. Let me see here. Let's see. I did this one just because I was asked to. Here we go. So like this is something where, again, there's a lot of great players in here. I don't know how this is going to look next year, but it beef up the offensive line. Logan Jones is a center. Get corner. Get defensive lineman Corleone, who's I think quite a player who could help us a lot in Green Bay a lot in terms of the one tech department. And then you get some more help at tight end if you so desire. I do think running back is still something they will also look at, but that's something just for fun because how's the mock draft landscape going to look by then? But it is it's quite a day. It really is. Approaching an hour. But yeah. Oh. Joseph's here as well. Says stopped in. And this Micah trade is awesome. Got to run, but we'll hop back on. I don't know how much longer we're gonna go, to be honest, because I think we'll hit a lot of the main points of like, hey, this is the details and how it looks and what Dallas could be looking for. Could they be moving up for Arch Manning? That's a possibility. We talked about early downs, a few screenshots they took of like what the jam fronts could look like and how they could be moved. We kind of made a talk about that scheme wise. And then of course the no first rounders for 2 years. What will we do type of thing. So we did quite a bit in this hour. Mike Kawano was on with us for the beginning, but I don't know if we're going to go much longer, to be honest. I don't think I have a lot of thoughts other than like, based on all your questions and comments, we kind of went through it all. So, bask in it. You know what I'm saying? Bask in the moment. Where Micah Parsons is joining this team and is going to be a massive plus for them. So, I can't wait to see. Okay, this is pretty funny. We got to bring this up. This is pretty interesting. Micah's making more money than Mahomes. Has Mahomes played unbelievable football the last couple of years? There could be some arguments against that, that he's not QB1 in the league anymore, though I think because those are happening, he's going to he might go scorched earth. But yeah, I mean, Dallas has become the like, hey, if you got a superstar, let's trade him type of thing to a historic franchise, because that's what's happened here the last the 2025. That's what's happened. So yeah, again, appreciate the folks who did drop in there. If some Packers fans, help me out, let them sub to the channel. I'm going to try to put stuff on here as well, leading into next week before the season starts. LVN is somebody who I really want to get to, and the rookies from last year, and some of the picks from April, since we didn't do all of them, unfortunately. But we got a lot of plans here for the season. Got a lot of plans on the other channel for the season. Got a lot of plans on the Substack for the season. So there's, you follow me at Jake NFL Draft on Twitter. You're probably going to see all of that as well. So yeah, what a day. We're going to remember it probably forever. This will be up there in the all-time days in Packers history. So that and the golden pick, and I think the other thing is if I think the expectation now is by the time this deal is up, the Lombardi's in your hands at least once, right? That's the goal. You got to have it in your hands once. Once that happens, the trade was worth it. Doesn't matter. Don't care if you're not a dynasty. Winning is hard. The Chiefs and Patriots have kind of ruined that for us quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, if you get a trophy in your hands because of this move, it was always worth it, no matter what. So hopefully we get that in the next 5. As I said, I think 26 might be the year where it's kind of a little bit of a tougher one for them because they're going to get more young players in next year. Money's going to be a little tighter probably. They got a lot of free agents coming up, but I do think 25, 27, 28 are going to be the years where it's like, yeah, we're full go. This is, and that obviously includes this one, right? That the 2025 is this one. So, be on the lookout. The corner room is probably the biggest question mark right now with the interior offensive line and running back depth. Those are probably the biggest things at the moment that you look at. Interior defensive line's probably another, but yeah, if you have those four, I think corner becomes a little easier to manage now with this, with the front and the depth in the edge room that I think can be utilized. So you maybe put corner a little bit further down. It's just, again, can the interior of both of these lines do the job that they need to do to help this team move forward? And I do think at the very least with Sheed, with Jenkins, and with Tom, right, you have tackle, center, tackle, which is a big deal. And those things you want to have. Losing Kenny Clark is still a blow because it's asking a younger, inexperienced unit to step up. But I think with Hafley in the building, a defensive coordinator who I wouldn't say like anything he's doing is like, oh my gosh, this is new age year 3000 stuff, but it is doing enough to change some looks, pre to post snap, creative blitzes, who's coming, who isn't, right? Making offensive lines commit to setting the protection that might be wrong. And again, they have a good safety room that's interchangeable enough where they can be in positions to make plays. The linebacker room, if Hopper takes a step up, the linebacker room is going to be in really nice shape. I know we like to dog on Quay Walker a decent bit. He was like my LB5 in that draft, but he's certainly done, a pretty good job making the transition to like, yeah, I'm playing in space, I'm running and chasing all this to, yeah, I have some duties as the Mike linebacker. Now, obviously, McKinney's wearing the green dot, but he still has a lot to think about at linebacker, and Cooper's coming along, and yeah, it's Green Bay's in an awesome position right now. And again, just enjoy the ride as much as you can after this trade. Like, it's not always going to be, you're not going to sit on the mountaintop all the time. After this, right? They're going to be, the first time Green Bay loses, if they lose week one, it's going to be like, well, was it worth it? Wow, this looks so dumb, like type of thing. Because the week one overreactions are probably the worst that it gets on NFL Twitter. But, obviously nothing's guaranteed. But certainly adding a player of this caliber, ups your odds. And in an NFC that, Philly just doesn't show signs of slowing down. Detroit changes coordinators on both sides, but they still have a great roster to do it. San Francisco could bounce back if they could ever stop getting hurt. I'm not big on the Manders this year, but the Bucs have a good team when Wirfs is healthy, and I think the division's going to be tough. It's just kind of how it's set up, unfortunately. The division's going to be tough. Packers have a great litmus test in late December with the Ravens coming to town, right? 2 days after Christmas. So there's going to be a lot of that. So, I just enjoy the ride too, because it's going to be fun. The first time Parsons sacks an opposing QB, it's the place is gonna go nuts. The first time Golden catches a touchdown, right? All of this. So it's going to be fun. We're a little over an hour. I think that's going to kind of do it for me here. But again, thanks to the folks who tuned in and dropped in and said hello. Make sure you're following here. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't done so. And yeah, I think, again, we're going to have a lot of content coming out. There's going to be a lot of overnight work tonight to make sure the Parsons video is ready for tomorrow. So make sure you're tuned in on the other channel, which is here, right? It's here for you guys if you need it. To check it out, but if you're following me, you'll always see it. So, yeah, thank you to those who came around. Adam, Joseph Gleason, JJ, too old for this. There were probably a few others in here. Joseph W, and obviously thanks to Mike Kawano for hopping in and joining us for the front half of this one. And yeah, just get excited. Get excited. Not only is Parsons a Packer, but the NFL is almost here as well. So, and college football is here. It's the fall. The fall's a great time. So, yeah. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. And of course, go Pack, go, everybody. Take care. We will see you soon in a multitude of media. Take care, everybody.